Hi, this is Kate Crumbar with Tech Demo 3, and the technology that I've chosen to use is Mentimeter. So this is a case study about using student book reports as a summative assessment, and we're put in the shoes of Mr. Jackson, who is a 9th grade ELA teacher. He has 4 90-minute block periods each day with 15 in-person students in each period, which means that he has 60 total students. So the class is doing a literature unit right now, and at the end they will present what they have learned. And they are each reading a novel of their choice. So each novel is different. Each presentation will be different. So the goals for this, Mr. Jackson wants to be able to assess 2 Common Core standards. The first being he wants to assess how well students can analyze character and thematic development. And the second is he also wants to be able to assess oral presentation skills. So the third goal, he wants students to be able to learn from each other. So in this case, students are writing a reflection paper about how they see similar literary elements developing throughout the plots of different novels and how they relate to each other. And he also wants to be able to give his students feedback very effectively and very quickly. But there are some challenges with this, and the first is being that students get really nervous about presenting, and the class finds traditional presentations very boring. Another challenge is that he finds that other version of the presentation, they're very hard to evaluate both of the Common Core standards. For example, he did an art project one year, and it was super hard to analyze if the kids were meeting the required literary analysis skills and the oral presentation skills because the kids weren't presenting, so he couldn't assess that. And the art, it was more focused on art rather than their literary analysis skills. The third one is that students have a very hard time remembering what each presentation was about. They can't remember all the main ideas, which makes it very hard for them to write their reflection paper. And then the last one is that the presentations take up a lot of time, and as the students write notes in their oral presentation, that generates a lot of papers for Mr. Jackson to keep track of and grade. And so to eliminate those challenges, we found Mentimeter. So Mentimeter is free to use. There are upgrades available. It changes your formatting style. It gives you more options to questions, that type of thing. It can be used on both mobile devices and computers. It works on any internet browser, and I know that it's available to download from the App Store, but I do not have access to Google Play or any sort of thing like that, so I'm unsure about that, but I do know that it does work on internet browsers, and it is available on the Apple App Store. So Mentimeter is a presentation-based platform. It's very similar to PowerPoint, but it has a ton more options. There are so many different features that you are able to use on each slide that make it that much more engaging and interactive. You can do live assessments similar to Kahoot. We talked about Kahoot in my last presentation, so we know that they are able to join with a simple code, and it's very similar how Mentimeter works. And it engages the audience. The audience they're able to be a part of the presentation. So if you were wanting to use this for group work, which in this case we are not, they're doing individual projects, you can share and create together. It allows for comments and reactions from those who follow along, so Mr. Jackson would be able to give those kids that feedback. And like I mentioned previously, it can be shared with a live link and code, and then it also saves work automatically, which is great, especially with technology sometimes failing us and not saving, that sort of thing. It saves it automatically, so there's no question as to whether or not your work is there. So this is an example of Mentimeter being used in a classroom. So these are older students using both phone and computer. So we have our presenter using his computer, presenting it onto a board, similar to how it would be used in a classroom, and these students are following along by playing on their phones. And I will show you how that works. So to get started on Mentimeter, you're going to go to mentimeter.com. And this is the first screen that you're going to see. You'll hit sign up for free. If you have an account, you'll hit login, but we're going to make an account. So once you're going to do that, you're going to make your account. The third step, it's going to ask you how you want to use it and where you want to use it. So I picked education because this is going to be used as an assessment. And I picked teacher for mine. Since I will be Mr. Jackson in this case, the students would pick student. And then it's going to ask you what your goals are. For this specific project, I picked engagement and insights and feedback. And then for step 5, it's going to ask you about what you want to buy. You don't want to buy anything unless you just really feel like going crazy. I picked the free version. and I will show you what that comes with. So let's take a bit of a closer look here at Mentimeter. So I have created 2 presentations. The first one is what a student presentation would look like. So we're going to go ahead and look at that real quick. So this is an example of a student presentation. So over here is where you can like and comment if you were following along. Through this, there are many different things that you can do. One of the main differences between this and PowerPoint is that all the typing takes place over here. So Arthur Author is our author of this story, and you type in over here. So I just put an exclamation mark over there, and it pops up over here. That's one of the main differences, but it's not all that different. You can customize your slide based on how you want it to be laying out. If you want voting, that sort of thing to be on, you can upload images. There are different themes for the whole thing. You can change how it looks. I have mine set on purple wave right now, and we see the wave is going across the screen. Just something fun and engaging. In the settings, the audience, if your audience is following along, they will go at the presenter pace, or the audience can move at their own pace. I have it set to presenter. You can turn on your interactions, your questions from the audience, and here is where you really want to turn this on to get feedback, comments from audience. That's what Mr. Jackson is going to be looking for in these presentations so that he can give feedback to his students. So let's take a look at what we have done here. So, for example, up here, this is the link that students will need to type, and this is the code that they will need to join in on a presentation. So if you wanted your students to follow along on the presentation, you could have them do that. And it would go at the pace of their the presenter. But I'm going to show you something that Mr. Jackson can help his students with in a different form. So this is an example of what student work could look like. It talks about the characters, it talks about the theme, that sort of thing. So if I wanted to add a slide, I would hit new slide, and this is what comes up. It gives you question types, it gives you quiz types, it gives you content slides, and it gives you advanced questions. And you can even hit add more and pick different things. So for example, I hit timeline in mine, and it's bookmarked on my thing. If I wanted to do spin the wheel, I could add that. I'm not going to, but there are more options. And it gives you a little preview of what each one looks like. If you can see number, there's a big number there. There's a quote there. And you would just hit whichever one that you want. And then whenever you're ready to present it, all you do is hit present. So that is what the students would do. This is a student perspective of how they could make their presentation and make it engaging. There are different tools to make it engaging. And this is one way to do it, is by having the rest of the class follow along and putting questions in there and that type of thing. Now, as a teacher, I thought that Mr. Jackson could do this. So this is a takeaway slide. So here's what I did. I went to new slide, and see, I have reached my maximum number of questions because I have done an open-ended question and a word cloud question. I'll show you what I mean. So at the end of each presentation, I want my students to respond to these 2 things. So I'm going to go to menti.com on my phone and show you how this works. So once I'm there, this is what it's going to look like. It's going to give me a section for a code to plug in, similar to Kahoot. And the code is 43862103. And then you'll just hit submit, and the question that is on the board comes up on my device. So what is one thing I noticed about the characters? They were friendly. And it pops up on the board. All I did was type in friendly, and I hit submit. That is all that I did. So once all of the students have responded, we could move on to the next one. So if I was in presentation mode, this is how it would look. There's my friendly, it came up. Once all of the students are done, we can move on to the next slide. The next slide is what is one thing you noticed about the theme, and it changed on my device as well. So I'm going to put friendship is the main theme. I submitted it, and it popped up right here. So once all students are done, again, all of their answers will be up here. And once I'm done, I'm just going to hit this little X right here. And I am going to end the presentation, just like I did. And the students, whenever the students are done, all they have to do is just exit out. So when I'm done, I want to view my results here. So we can see all the results from all of the students. We see that we have 2 votes, which both are mine. and we want to hit download PDF. And what this is going to do, it's going to take away the stress of the students remembering everything. So all we'd have to do is print this out, and each student's response would be on here, and hand them to them from each presentation so that they have those ideas right in front of them and they don't have to remember all 15 presentations. So that's a really nice feature, is that it stores the results for you, and you can use this for each presentation. So another really cool thing that I like about this is that whenever you are done, you can go ahead and erase all of them. So there are different options down here, and reset results is the one that you're going to hit. You can reset the results for the entire presentation and start it over for the next one. So your students could stay logged into this the entire time on their device while students are presenting. That way there's no question about what they're doing, and you see their results coming up per presentation. So that's one tool that I really like about Mentimeter. So it is very similar in the fact that it is like PowerPoint. You can also, one thing that I forgot to mention, you can set the number of entries per participant. So there should be 15 since each student is only allowed 1. But if I wanted them to have 4, they could have 4 responses. But we're going to leave it at 1. So it stores everything. You can name it yourself. There are different templates and such that you can use. Describe yourself in one word. Gather feedback on your exams. You could use this as a quick assessment tool, or even give quizzes. So Mentimeter has a lot of great things. There's lots of categories. There's even tutorials if you need help with that. And then all of your presentations and all of your data are going to be stored in here. So that is a brief explanation of Mentimeter. It's very fun to use, and I think it is a great tool. So let's go back. So we just looked at the student perspective and how they can make their Mentimeters and how it looks whenever you are joining and doing it. We just went over that. So let's move on to the teacher perspective. We also talked about this and how teachers have access to the results. So this is what it looks like when they're responding. We saw that. And we also saw what it looked like when we were managing the results and how we downloaded the PDF to be able to give to the class so that they don't have to remember everything from each presentation. So closing remarks. So how does this address the goals? So Mr. Jackson can still assess the student's ability to analyze characters and thematic development based on the standards throughout their Mentimeter presentation. So their presentation is basically going to be them analyzing what they have learned. And there are so many different fun tools that can keep the audience engaged, like that live link. He can also assess their oral presentation skills because they are going to be sharing this with the class. Students will be able to easily spot similarities between novels and be able to learn from each other because they're going to have those sheets from the results. And he can also give students feedback in those comments because those comments are turned on. You're able to comment at any time. And the challenges. So the pressure is taken off the students when presenting because of the inviting and creative nature of Mentimeter. Mentimeter is super engaging, and it's not all presentation focused. It has a little bit of fun. There's a little bit of pop. There's some animation in it. So it takes that pressure of the presenter off. So Mr. Jackson can also easily assess both standards because this is a setup that students actually enjoy. They can have their students give them feedback. It's a really cool thing that is non-traditional presentation. Another challenge that it assesses is that students don't have to remember anything specific or write down notes. Like we said, those assessment slide results can be printed and handed out to students for the reflective essay to help them remember what each presentation was about. And then Mr. Jackson won't need students to write down their presentation on note cards. He can assess them while using the comments feature. And he can also, if he really wants to, he can take notes on his own. But he will not need those because he can save the slides as long as they are shared with him. And so the comments tool really helps out there because he can write that down. So like I said, you just go to settings and make sure that that is turned on and you can give live comments. So Mr. Jackson, I think that Mentimeter is a great tool for you.